All right, Pippi.
Hey,
Pippi, where did you grow up? Where are you from?
I grew up on the East Coast in a small town in North Carolina.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And tell me about your family.
I'm pretty estranged from everybody at this point. I'm the last child out. My mom was not prepared. She didn't want to have me. So, I mean, that's just I was kind of the number six. So we all had to kind of make our way in the world, and however, whatever that meant. And growing up where I did, being effeminate was wow. It was hell because I got picked on by everybody, mostly my family. So I didn't have a support network of any kind there. That's what led me to moving away and ending up in Atlanta, and eventually San Francisco, and now Southern California.
Yeah, California, the West Coast is probably easier.
Yeah, after COVID, San Francisco just got to be really unbearable. The homeless situation is out of control. I was becoming homeless myself. I wasn't making any money, and I was trying to get sober. So
Sober from
alcohol.
alcohol.
There are some drugs in my history, but and the fact that I didn't do as many as a lot of my peers probably is what kept me drinking, because I would say at least I'm not a drug addict. But I know now that addiction is addiction to whatever it may be,
The alcohol.
powder, liquids, whatever. And now recently, I've not recently, but I mean, I see that it's so insidious that it can kind of manipulate and move around. Like, so maybe you're done with alcohol, but we're going to do sexual obsessive, or there's so many other ways that we can fuck up our lives.
But alcohol is available everywhere and very accepted.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I
mean, I think like like addictive behavior can manifest in so many other ways, like compulsive gambling or.
What other behaviors do you have?
Well, I can do them all, really. I could, if compulsive gambling is I mean, well, I think because it gives you that when you win, of course, that's your trigger. That's like, it's like a high, it's like a rush. You could win $1,000 and then spend $2,000 to try to get more.
So you get involved in gambling as well sometimes? Yeah.
I mean, I had to leave the town. I was in Palm Springs for a while, and it was so easy. There's a casino there, and it's easy to get. There's something that happens when I walk in to a casino. There's this kind of thrill or adrenaline or whatever, and since I've won there before, I go to the machine where I won on before, and of course it lets you win a few times. And then you start losing.
That's how it works.
And then it's like up to down. I mean, obviously, I think that when you go in. I mean, they can't build these grand casinos with all the lights and attractions without making a lot of money. So clearly, there has to be a way more losers than there are winners. And I've found out that even the winners have spent thousands and thousands to get the winnings that they got. And chances are they never... they don't stop gambling. Like you win $10,000, terrific. Does that mean you're going to invest that money wisely and never gamble again? Of course not, because it's so much of a thrill. I mean, the town of Las Vegas is built upon that premise. I mean, it plays on our human instinct, our desire, or whatever. And
what kind of jobs or careers have you had in your life?
I've done a lot where you have easy access to alcohol, bartending, and catering bartending is probably the best way to have easy access to alcohol. And most of the time, there's not very many consequences either. Although the fact is that the consequences started presenting themselves more and more. Like everything in life, it's cute when you're young and pretty and people look the other way. about crazy behavior or whatever. But towards the end of my drinking, it was just, I knew how much trouble I cause and get into, and I black out and I don't know what I'm doing or saying, and I could be aggressive or, make a sexual advance on somebody who's totally not into it or anything, and just be, but for years that was acceptable behavior because I was around a bunch of other people who were fuck ups and party people, and the world is ending, let's party hard. For a long time, I mean, that whole idea of the looming apocalypse kind of what my incentive was. But now that the apocalypse really is here, I've changed my mind. Well, like the 80s and 90s is when the AIDS pandemic really seemed unsolvable, and it basically seemed like an inevitable death sentence. And for many years, I assumed that I was going to have HIV or that I had HIV, and I never bothered to get tested because I didn't want to know. I just wanted to die dramatically or quickly, suddenly. But of course, it doesn't play out that way. I saw many people who did die of AIDS and who suffered long and slow deaths, and it was pretty miserable. And someone who, like myself, who's prone to depression and anxiety anyway, so it was easy to just turn to alcohol. And a lot of these friends of mine who were facing terminal illness, they're like, let's go out, let's party. So I developed the attitude of like, let's live fast, die young, etc., etc. I'm not young anymore though, so now it's like, what's going to be my third act? I don't have any money or savings, and I'm I do get jobs as a kind of freaky character in videos online and even on major movies and TV shows. I mean, I get booked as a background extra, but obviously that's not consistent and it's not great money. And the dream is to get something that turns into something bigger. But
where do you live now?
The high desert, Mojave Desert.
Okay. So
outside of LA. So until recently, I had my car, but it overheated, and so I'm kind of desperate for money and a new car. But I could drive into LA for a job, and it wasn't that big of a deal. And today, I was able to borrow a car. So
you mentioned to me earlier that you're a hoarder as well.
Yeah, it's just something that I know I've watched the show Hoarders, and it's been very illuminating. But my aunt is a hoarder, and I remember growing up how we all kind of criticized her about that. We didn't know what the term was not really discussed, but and it's very frustrating to try to explain it to other people. Like, you're up to your chin in crap, but you can't let it go, and you don't know why, and it's really frustrating. So it separates you from people. You don't want people to come over and see the place where you live because it's embarrassing. And of course they would wonder, well, why would you want to live that way? And the answer is, you don't want to live that way, but you feel like you can't escape from it. So
is it related in any way to gambling or alcoholism?
I'd say so, yeah. I think they all kind of play in together. In fact, the more I was drinking, the less I was hoarding. So now that I'm not drinking, these other bad aspects of my character are coming to the forefront.
What other bad aspects do you?
Well, the stealing, the kleptomania is so, when you do it, it's kind of a thrill.
So you're a kleptomaniac as well.
Yeah, and it's so easy to get around. Like, if you have your wits about, like San Francisco has become a town where they just stopped prosecuting it. So it's basically an open invitation for I mean, it almost takes the fun out of it, to be honest. Because like there's really no repercussions for stealing.
So you'll steal from stores?
You can just steal anything from like CVS or
do you do that to like
or Target or whatever.
people that you know or people you meet or anything like that, or just stores?
Just stores,
Which they call
basically, because
boosting.
I feel like they have a way to bounce back or whatever. They have a network that they can recover somehow, but still, it's like you even if they have security cameras all over the place, a lot of times you just become invisible when you just dress real down. And I mean, if you don't call too much attention to yourself, every situation is different. Hopefully you can size up the place when you arrive and can scope it out. But I think it's leading to a lot more closures of stores. They're just not they just can't handle it anymore. Especially that's one of the reasons I left San Francisco. It was so out of control that the stores were closing down because they couldn't keep up with they couldn't handle the shoplifting. There was no way to control it. It was like they were hemorrhaging.
Yeah, so many of the homeless people support themselves by stealing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a whole underground economy, and then when you live there, you can I see it around here too. You can just walk on the sidewalk, and people have a little yard sale going on where it's like, I got this, that, the other. If you need something, tell me what it is. I can maybe find it for you. So it's like an untapped resource in a way. I mean,
MacArthur Park here in LA is basically just a big open market of stolen items.
Yeah. And bicycles and you name it. And it's like people have gotten locked into that world. That's their job, that's their thing. So it's almost like the system is so corrupt and so rotten that it's unsolvable. I mean, it's really hard to get these people to change and go. It's like there were a lot of people who complained about marijuana becoming legal because it was like bootlegging with alcohol. When alcohol was prohibited, there were people the Kennedys, for example, made a huge fortune from bootleg alcohol. And now marijuana is legal, and so that underground economy is erased, and people have had to adjust to that and deal with it.
What is there a relationship between your kleptomania and your hoarding and your alcoholism and the
I think
gambling?
It fulfills some kind of a need that I don't even know what it is. But
Was there something in your childhood? What was your relationship like with your dad?
He died young, so we didn't really have a relationship. I was only 8 years old at the time of his death. So my mother was very bitter about her situation. She didn't want to have children anyway.
Did you feel loved as a kid?
No, not really. I think she could fake it, but I realize now I inherited her personality, which is cold and distant ultimately. And I'm fucked up, I really am. And I don't know what is going to happen to me in the future. It's scary because I have no...
How old are you?
Say 55. This is the age people retire. So it's a frightening, cold, and heartless. It feels like a heartless world out there, especially when you're in the underground. Like you think these homeless people out here have a code of honor.
There is no code of honor.
Well, I don't know people are. It's like being a wild animal, and it's survival and fighting. And if you have to beat somebody up or even kill them to get what you need, you do it, and you just move on to the next thing, and you live for the moment. So everybody has their time when they're just vulnerable, and when you get to that point, you have no one to turn to. When you're living out on the street like that, you don't feel like you have any allies.
What's been your lowest point in your life?
Being homeless and having to be nice or be sexual with people that I just not turned on to at all, but because that I needed to do that in order to have a place to stay.
Do you have friends?
Well, I feel like I'm very alone in the world at the moment, so I can have fake friends and bullshit stuff like that. But there are meetings out there you can go to, support groups and stuff, and I hit those from time to time. But I just feel like I'm kind of a loner.
Are those meetings helpful?
At heart. I think they can be for a minute, but they feel very empty sometimes, very saccharine or something like that, hypocritical maybe. I think that was the first thing I noticed about people in church growing up in the Bible Belt, all the hypocrisy, and then finding out later that they've been molesting their family but people, or even they're anti-gay, but then they are busted having gay sex at like a rest stop or something like that. So it's weird. I almost think it's like a fetish for some of these people to be,
Secret.
have double life and all that stuff. So
yeah, I think it's pretty common.
Yeah, totally. And if you are smart and think about these things, it turns you off to all of that. It's hard to buy into it. So.
Right. You been in love before?
Yeah, and they didn't love me back.
That happens.
So that happens. That seems to be all I get. I always fall for the wrong person or the unavailable person. The people who are probably sociopaths. There's something that I find appealing about them or whatever, because they're distant or they're broken, and I feel like that's somehow appealing, which is stupid. But I know what it is, but it is what it is.
It's a very common human trait, I think.
Yeah, you want the unavailable.
Yeah.
Well, like the guy who was obsessed with Jodie Foster. I mean, that's the first time I remember that. Somebody having an obsession with someone who didn't even know who they were or give a shit about them. And yeah, I mean, that was such a crazy story, but at the same time, other people do it. People obsess about other people who don't have any interest or even know who they are. It's real twisted, and I feel like it's gotten even more so now, maybe because we have so much information available and so little real contact with each other. Mm-hmm. The coronavirus definitely made things much worse, because we can't be around each other safely, but we can stay home and watch TV and get on the internet and go down the rabbit hole of all these theories.
Yeah. Celebrity is a powerful commodity now.
Oh, right. Well, we're in the land of celebrity right now, and
yeah, but it seems that's a very more powerful than money, power, anything. It seems to be one of the most powerful aphrodisiacs there is.
Yeah, and it's so stupid how quickly people can become celebrities now via the internet. Children that are like teenagers or even younger, they do a cute little video, and next thing you know, millions of people are subscribing or whatever. And it just happens so fast that they burn out real quick too, and I guess it's kind of like the way it was for child stars in the early days.
Very much like that.
They get used up. They don't stay cute. Nobody stays young.
It's very hard to stay on top.
Well, you can, even if you have millions of dollars to spend on everything, getting pulled and tucked and whatever injections to stay youthful looking. It's just, you can't stop the march of time, and then accidents happen, diseases happen. It's like shit happens. We're all doomed to eventually die. So,
would you describe yourself as self-destructive?
Yeah, in the past for sure. I mean, I certainly don't do much now to.
Some of the behaviors you've mentioned are.
Yeah, I'm not drinking or doing drugs, but I eat unhealthy foods, and probably, and I don't exercise in any real way. So the thought of not living becomes more and more appealing. You know.
What's your biggest fear?
God, well, just not being able to breathe, I guess. You know, because it's a panicking situation. And I've had that sometimes where I wake up where I can't breathe, kind of like, oh, you're gasping for air. And the death part, I feel like, because I've been near death for various reasons. I have a heart problem and stuff over the years. And when I feel like I got close to death, I actually felt very peaceful and wanted to go there. And I've heard other people say the same thing who've had near-death experiences. Once you get there, I think the fear of death is kind of what motivates people to continue, move along. But strangely, the peacefulness of death is very seductive too. I mean, so it's put me in a quandary. I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to be doing with myself. Why am I here anymore? And what is the fate of the human race? Because collectively we've destroyed our environment, and the generations before us, whether through ignorance or whatever, they just basically shit all over the planet. And now the air we breathe is toxic. The sun is burning us. It's hotter than it's ever been before. I mean, there's no denying what's happening, and it sure is tempting to want to numb out and not think about it, and find a way to pleasure ourselves. Speaking for myself, so stealing is a thrill, and you get stuff. You get extra stuff. But
I think if we all just spent a little more of our time and energy trying to make the world a little bit better than it was before we were on it. That could be very helpful.
Yeah, well, it's like an inconsideration, but I think what's happening now is like more and more and more positive reinforcement for that kind of behavior exists. People like Trump set a tone just look at the escalating incidents on airplanes and just in customer service in general. There's just a lot more hostility and a lot of rudeness. Stopped at McDonald's on the way here. They have to have a security guard at the cashier's stand now, because people are like so eager to start a fight over anything, like my coffee's not sweet enough or whatever, and you see videos online, and I think that encourages people to do it, you see there's like a whole channel of Karen attacks or even the male Karens, whatever they're called, the Kevins maybe, but there's just so much glorification of trash behavior. It used to be funny, but now it's so common that it's just like, get me out of here.
Are you pessimistic about the future of mankind?
Yeah, I can't see how we could get out of this unless some alien life force from another planet, more sophisticated and intelligent, can come here and help us, maybe get us a new planet somewhere. We have to, I think what keeps us going is the hope. You have to keep hoping that there's something out there that can help us. And I suppose I'm always looking for a savior of some kind. I wish a hero would come along, but the years keep passing, and I still don't get what I want or feel like I need, and I lose hope. And I've wondered about how I could end it all safely without pain. But
what would you say, Pippi, is the most important thing you've learned in all of your life?
That everything changes. Everything is temporary. Everything is temporary. Good things are bad things. So, if I'm on a high, I'd like to stay on a high, but realistically, that's not probably healthy anyway. Because I've seen people who have had a lot of great, who seem like they've had enviable lives, But it's not that way. Things hardly ever are what they seem at face value. You talked about celebrities and that life, but I think most people don't stop and consider how inconvenient all that is. I mean, think about your daily routine. If you're going to the store, or going for a walk, if you're recognizable wherever you go, that would suck so much. Everybody wants to maybe take a selfie or talk to you or tell you how much they love you, which seems great. Like, wouldn't it be wonderful if everybody loved me? But sometimes you're not in the mood to hear all that. Sometimes you're not in the mood to put on a show and be, or I'm not, but I have a kind of a rotten personality. I'd say stoic personality. I'm not always in the mood to sparkle and shine and smile.
All right, Pippi, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
And I wish you the best of luck.